lot of you will know Mervyn Langford because he runs the Magda Art, and so you will have seen him. You will have been down there at some stage, I'm sure. So here he is, Mervyn Langford.
Well, thank you for the opportunity to perform. I'd like to start with one of the great anthems of the Australian folk movement, which I'm sure you'll all know. The price of wool was falling in 1891. The men who owned the acres said something must be done. We will break the shearers' union and show we're masters still. They'll take the terms we give them, or we'll find the men who will. From Claremont to Buckholden, the shearing camps were full. 10,000 blades were ready to strip the greasy wool, when through the west like thunder rang out the union call. The sheds will be sure union, or they won't be shorn at all. Old Billy Lane was with them, his words were like a flame. The flag blew above them, they spoke Eureka's name. Tomorrow, said the squatters, you'll find it does not pay. We're bringing up free labourers to get the cook away. Tomorrow, said the shearers, they may not be so keen. We can mount 3,000 horsemen to show you what we mean. Then we'll pack the west with troopers from Burke to Charters Towers. You can have your fill of speeches, but the final strength is ours. Be done to your six-shooters, your troopers and police. The sheep are growing heavier, the bar is in the fleece. Well, if Nordenfelt and Gatling don't bring you to your knees, we'll find a law, the squatter said, that's made for times like these. To trial at Rockhampton, the 14 men were brought. The judge had got his orders, the squatters owned the court, but for everyone was sentenced, 1,000 won't forget. When you jail someone for striking, it's a rich man's country yet. As a kid, I never understood why sheep were so important in Australia. And eventually I realised that it didn't matter who or what it was, that something had to take the initiative. And we've just had the exhibition, of course, and all the country folk in town, and I found the Gundawindi Times, if you please, down in Rosalie. And there was this article about how the miracles of medicine have become everyday realities. How women wanting babies can obtain them by the dozen from the local doctor's cold room, all conveniently frozen. But I must admit, the notion left me feeling rather cold, because I much preferred the method we used to use in days of old. But the skillful city surgeon and his art must surely pale when you see the stockman operating out in the post and rail, stitching up dog-ravaged wethers and a mulga stick for brakes, whilst kiddies still have their ears lopped off to control the bite of snakes. Shotgun dentists, cures with castor oil. I guess I've seen the lot. Just take the drastic use of stock knives to control the Baku rot. Well, I was remarking on this very fact at Easter on the phone to a mate of mine, Ken Cooper, who lives down the back of Scone. Now, Ken was working on a fence line with a bloke called Slogger Brown. Ken was running out the wire whilst this bloke was cutting down. A mob of sheep stood waiting for the foliage to land when this jagged branch jumped back and knocked the chainsaw from his hand. Ah, 'twas a dreadful sight. It'd turn your limbs to jelly. The whirring blade came down across the bushman's hairy belly. And it wasn't just a matter of where this or that part fits. His entire internal mechanisms was chopped in little bits. Well, Ken told me on all the details, but me tears were soon in flood, 'cause the earpiece of the telephone was slowly oozing blood. Well, Ken had been a butcher when he worked the Queensland scene. You know, a sort of reverse surgeon. Yeah, somebody follows what I mean. He knew it would be seconds before Slogger breathed his last, and he had to do some surgery and do it really fast. So he grabbed a ewe around the neck and slit its nether hide and hauled its steaming entrails out and dropped them in Slogger's hide. Where he lacked finesse and finish, he was long on common sense, and he drew the gas together with staples from the fence. Well, Ken then did some plumbing in the inlet soon aligned. The outlet quickly fell in place with stitches unrefined. He used an entire roll of tie wire, but it must have hit the mark, because Slogger staggered to his feet and went off to clean the bark. So Ken retrieved the chainsaw and wiped the blood away. They stood another 395 posts before the close of the day. Now, for months I've sat and wondered, was this story really true? I mean, you hear a lot of tales about what people out in the bush might do. So I phoned Ken up the other day, and I mentioned on the side, I suppose you miss old Slogger. I mean, I presume the poor coot died. Ah, you'll never kill old Slogger, says Ken. He's as tough as bloomin' teak. Why, he's down fencing at Uralla, and he had a lamb last week. In 1841 I put my corduroy breeches on, to work upon the railway. Fill me ori-iri-ay, fill me ori-iri-ay, fill me ori-iri-ay, you're working on the railway. In 1842 from Hartlepool I then moved to Crewe, got myself a job to do, working on the railway. Fill me ori-iri-ay, fill me ori-iri-ay, fill me ori-iri-ay, you're working on the railway. In 1843 'twas then I met sweet Biddy McGee, an elegant wife she's been to me, working on the railway. Fill me ori-iri-ay, fill me ori-iri-ay, fill me ori-iri-ay, you're working on the railway. In 1844 I landed on Van Diemen shore. My belly was empty, my hands were sore from working on the railway. Fill me ori-iri-ay, fill me ori-iri-ay, fill me ori-iri-ay, you're working on the railway. In 1845 I found myself more dead than alive, from working 6 days from 7 to 5, working on the railway. Fill me ori-iri-ay, fill me ori-iri-ay, fill me ori-iri-ay, you're working on the railway. In 1846 I broke me shovel into sticks, changed me trade to carrying bricks from working on the railway. Fiddle-me-o-re-I-re-a, 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 working on the railway. In 1847, sweet Biddy McGee, she went to heaven. If she left one kid, she left 11 to work upon the railway. Fiddle-me-o-re-I-re-a, 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 to work upon the railway. Fiddle-me-o-re-I-re-a, 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 working on the railway. Well, whilst I'm on a railway theme, here's another one. On the 40-pound rail steams the C-16, commanded by its driver, Mr. Billy Sheen. The GM gave him orders on the strict QT to run a faster schedule than the spirit of P. Keep that regulator open, let the black smoke roll. Throw on all the floorboards if you run out of coal. If we don't beat that wrecker, Billy said to his mate, I'll book in with Peter at the Golden Gate. Billy Sheen ran the fastest schedule. Billy Sheen, a mighty man was he. Billy Sheen ran the fastest schedule. He ran the fastest schedule than the spirit of P. The fireman was a punting boy from Narrabeen. He said, I'll lay the odds against your C-16. Old Billy flashed a rolling us 'twould make you stare. The boiler then exploded, threw them both in the air. Said Billy to that fireman as they left that wreck, I don't know where we're going, but we're neck and neck. The fireman then said, Billy, I tell you what I'll do. I'll lay another fiver, I go higher than you. Billy Sheen ran the fastest schedule. Billy Sheen, a mighty man was he. Billy Sheen ran the fastest schedule. He ran the fastest schedule of the spirit of P. The wife of driver Sheehan was at home in bed when the railway wired to say Billy is dead. She called her young ones to her, said, listen, honey lambs, the next old man you get will be a guard in the van. The railway's all in mourning now for Billy Sheen. No more you'll hear the puffing of his C-16. They scrape on all the locals, both the goods and the mail, from Ingham to Mount Isa down to New South Wales. Billy Sheen ran the fastest schedule. Billy Sheen, a mighty man was he. Billy Sheen ran the fastest schedule. He ran the fastest schedule than the spirit of P. He ran the fastest schedule than the spirit of P. I seem to have spent a lot of my life in the western suburbs, and Tuong Cemetery has always been between where I lived and, of course, my pub down at the RE, so of course it happened one night, instead of taking the big dog leg all the way around, it was a night like this, nice and cool and clear, and the moon was out and the air was clear and still, and I plucked up the courage and I thought I'd take a shortcut home that led over Tuong Cemetery Hill. Well, I'm not a hero, as I'm sure you know, and I'm not prone to reckless trends, but ghosts and the like leave me cold, as it were. But spirits and I are old friends. While staggering through the cemetery gates, begging me legs to behave, I thought everything was going all right, till I fell in this newly dug grave. For a moment I thought, oh gee, I've landed in hell and ended my earthly career. And I sniffed like a hound for sulphurous fumes, expecting old Nick to appear. But reason returned and I staggered erect, my prison so dark to survive, and I tested me limbs for a fracture or two, but everything functioned okay. Oh, I gave one feeble attempt to get out, but it took me in my condition, I hadn't a ghost of a chance. So I reckoned I'd lay off, and when I woke sober and fit, I was sure to come up with some sort of scheme that'd get me out of that pit. Just then I heard fast oncoming hooves that seemed too good to be true, and before I could or offer advice, in the grave there were suddenly two. By chance, this chap landed in the grave's other end with nothing to cushion his fall, and he rose with a strangled yelp and attempted to climb up the wall. This chap was at pains to be up and away, as the capers he cut plainly told. He jumped and he scrambled and he jumped again, but his poor little fingers and toes wouldn't hold. Well, I hadn't yet spoken. I'd hardly the chance. But I began to admire the way that he fought to sever all strands and be out. I thought he'd relax as I gave him the drum, that he wasn't alone as he thought. So I walked up behind him and tapped on his back as he poised for another wild bid. "You won't make it, mate," I breathed in his ear, but by the living Lord Harry he did!